I'm Jess.
And I'm Matt.
And I can't believe you haven't seen Saved.
And yet, now that I've seen it, still no closer to actually seeing Jesus, other than a, 20-foot tall paper mache Jesus?
I think he's a billboard, but yeah, it's probably the closest you're gonna get.
Maybe the closest anybody's gonna get.
If you haven't seen this movie and you don't know what it's about, I guess, spoiler alert, religious trauma may be discussed.
Yeah, no Jim Caviezel or Willem Dafoe playing Jesus in this movie.
Oh, the Jim Caviezel. Anyway, let's not talk too far about Jesus.
Yeah.
So hi, welcome back to I Can't Believe You Haven't Seen with Matt and Jess. Today we're discussing a movie Matt hasn't seen before now, Saved. Which I really couldn't believe you hadn't seen, because it's just the sort of satire that I would have expected to be up your alley.
Yeah, we can talk about why I hadn't seen it, but go ahead and introduce the
completely
movie.
Fair.
Yeah.
So, for some context, as we always do, Saved was a 2004 American independent satirical black comedy film, is how it's described.
Yep.
Directed by Brian Danley. And starred such notable names that you might recognize as a very young Jenna Malone, Mandy Moore, who plays the bitch so well, Macaulay Culkin, Patrick Fugit, Mary Louise Parker, Martin Donovan, Eva Emery. It was actually filmed in British Columbia.
Yes.
Which is kind of fun. So Canadian connection. And was considered at the time a sleeper hit, and is really one of those super secret surprise cult classic type of movies. Because
it debuted in Sundance and then got a release afterwards. So kind of went the same way a lot of other independent cult classic-y sleeper hit type movies did from the 90s going into the 2000s.
Yeah, it was released at Sundance January 21st, 2004, and then more widely May 28th, 2004. It's a relatively quick movie, 92 minutes.
Yep.
Not terribly long.
I think it's the shortest one we've seen so far.
I think so, and yet somehow I suspect we'll have the most to talk about. But sleeper hit because the budget was only $5 million, and the box office gross was 10.1. So, not something that I guess they really expected.
No. Double your money. Not bad box office for an indie movie.
Yeah. And an indie movie that really was focused on... It's a contemporary teen movie at that point, really, with a whole lot of, again, we talked religious trauma. So, as is tradition in this podcast, the one of us who hadn't seen the movie is going to lead the discussion. So, that's a little context. And obviously, we can talk about why I have seen this movie, but I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, I actually was going to ask you, if you remember when you first saw this movie.
It came out in high school, so yeah, right. I would have been in high school.
Okay.
And hilariously, again, for context of folks who don't know me, I went to a very Catholic school from K to 12.
And I didn't.
And I think it's unsurprising that I probably was on the tail end of my, let's all love Jesus. That's a weird sentence. Listen, I think, you have faith in whatever you have faith in, and that's completely fine. But I don't really fit the Catholic school mold, is maybe a better way of putting that.
No.
I know, shocking. It would have probably been 05, 06, because I worked in a corner store,
right? Which
back in those days still rented movies out because
DVDs,
the bad old days. And this one we used to be able to just rent movies for I think cheap or nothing. I can't really remember specifically. Yeah. And so I definitely took this one home on one of those Fridays where it was I got nothing else to do. I'm going to take snacks from the store and also this movie.
Yes.
Buy snacks from the store if anybody from 20 years ago is listening. And wild.
Yeah.
So.
And this is the era of movies, especially this type of independent movie. I would say the majority of people probably saw movies like this doing exactly that, renting the DVD. Because a lot of times these movies had a real life on DVD. That was a real release strategy like it used to be on VHS. But DVDs were cheaper to produce. They were everywhere. Like you said, a bunch of corner stores would have them for rental or even for purchase. So a lot of movies that might be in the Sundance Film Festival that might have had a tougher time in theaters, even though this one did pretty well, probably had a pretty good life afterwards from the home rental market.
Yeah, I can see that.
And it's, that doesn't exist as much anymore. Independent movies now have a lot more of a difficult time finding an audience after a theater release, even getting a theater release these days.
Well, and is that partly just because we're so focused on streaming?
Yes, it is. And that we won't get into that because that's a whole discussion that could take a whole 2 hours.
That's a whole other podcast of yours. yeah.
But it makes sense that that's how you watched it. And I remember seeing this movie in like video rental stores for the most part because I was in university and going to rent various movies because I was a movie nerd and
was a movie nerd.
Well, still am. But like I was at that point, I was in my 4th year of university, so I was I was taking a few film studies classes. All of my open options in university that I had, which I think was 3 one semester classes, I took film studies with all of them. And this is prime Matt being in his trying to watch as many of the like pretentious artistic movies along with a lot of cult classic-y stuff that I hadn't seen from like Yonder.
Sorry, just real quick. A white dude in his 20s in university trying to be pretentious. Can't imagine it.
Well, no, I wasn't trying to be pretentious.
Watching pretentious
but
things.
I was watching
Again,
a
can't
lot
imagine
of pretentious movies. Just because I didn't have access to a lot of that when growing up. I lived in a very small town, and we had a video rental store like everybody else, but most of what you had was the major studio stuff to rent and new stuff and some old stuff too, but like there was large gaps in the old movies they had for like film history things, which I started to get into in high school. So when I was in a big city in university, it was kind of like, okay, I'm going to catch up and watch all of these, and a lot of like foreign films that I didn't really have access to that I wanted to watch. So anyways, it makes sense that this didn't cross my radar.
This wasn't important enough to make it onto your list of pretentious shit to catch up on?
Correct. And you weren't going to necessarily sell me on it being a Christian high school movie either from, the outset of the
fair.
cover.
Yeah.
So
I'm a little surprised mostly because satire is so very much your thing, and there's so many movies that we have watched together that you arguably you introduced me to, but like other ones we've watched together that like you're such a satire guy, and this is very clearly in that vein in places, and
I'm gonna get to that.
So I'm intrigued anyway. So floor is yours.
So we'll start it off, and again, some of my notes are ones that are just quick notes and some of them are longer ones and further discussions.
Wow, weird. It's almost like we've done this before.
We've done this once or twice now. The very first thing I wrote down is the voiceover trope. And the voiceover trope in movies is always kind of a funny one because they're some of the greatest movies of all time that have voiceover in them. We watched one of them not too long ago for this podcast. And Goodfellas is like, if it's not the best example of all time, it's very close. It's on a short list.
It's that way for a reason. Yeah.
And it plays with the voiceover with main characters and has 2 different people voicing it over. So it's got some interesting things going on. Saved starts out with the voiceover of Mary, which is Jenna Malone's character. And it is about as by the numbers voiceover trope as you can get. You're very much in Mary's point of view. And it's, I made a note of it because I kind of was like, oh, the early 2000s. There was a lot of movies like this in a lot of different genres that became the, like, inner monologue of character movies. It felt like that was the en vogue thing to do with a lot of screenwriters. To the point where there are movies that we may potentially do for this podcast, specifically one I'm thinking of that uses voiceover but actually later mocks the fact that it's using voiceover as a like narrative trope for it.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it at that point it was a cliche. At this point it was continued to be a cliche. And for a teen movie, it's relatively on par with everything from like Ferris Bueller's Day Off onwards, essentially, even though Ferris is delivering a lot of his monologue straight to the camera. It's a pretty standard thing, but it's funny when you watch this movie now, and there's less use of voiceover in new movies these days.
That's because we're just blowing shit up and being superheroes.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit of a response of people trying to be like, oh right, I don't want to do this thing that's been done to death for years.
So we have just repeated Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not bitter about the current state of movies.
Yeah. Anyway,
but
so
yeah, I take your point. Yeah. It's pretty schlocky in that it's overdone. Part of me feels like it's schlocky on purpose, but I'm maybe giving it too much credit because it's filmed in like 2003. So it's probably not. It's probably just
the flavor of the day.
Which
I
fair.
think. Yeah.
Again, keeping in mind setting these. Anytime we do these, setting them in like the socio-political, cultural climate in which the movie is made.
Yeah.
Right?
And
so,
oh boy howdy, is this one situated in, this is 2004 core to its bones.
Yeah, there was a few things. I admittedly hadn't watched this movie in a while. Like, it's not a comfort movie for me, where like something like My Best Friend's Wedding is where I'll watch it if I'm having a bad day or whatever, right?
Yeah.
If we're talking specifically podcast movies. Yeah, there's one like use of a word where I'm like, oh shit, 2004, there you are.
Yeah,
yikes.
the hard R used in a way that is just colloquial.
Yeah, it's not okay.
It's not okay. And that's it. You know what? It reminds me actually a little bit of going back and watching a certain crop of 80s teen movies.
Yeah.
Where the F slur was used for a gay character or calling someone gay. And it was just a thing that was used. And, you know, it's, in those cases, it's never meant in a way other than it's just how people talked. It doesn't make it okay.
Yeah, we've changed.
Yeah.
We know better, do better, but it's just...
It's tough.
Sometimes it pulled me out of it a little bit where I was like, oh, I forgot that happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there is those, and those exist. There are the very stereotypical 2004 haircuts all over this movie.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, boy.
The Christian Jewel hair is very contemporary. I will be wearing it to work on Tuesday.
Yeah. Jennifer Aniston still collects royalties from that haircut, I think.
I don't know that one's so much the Rachel. The flip out is very much Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen.
That's fair. That is fair. The male haircuts, I think everybody was going for the like slightly longer haired to shoulder length. I am the rebel boy, not really type of thing that Patrick Fugit is. Absolutely rocking. Macaulay Culkin's hair looks like Macaulay Culkin's hair, so at least we have that.
He doesn't change much. I do have the line, I've written a line that just says, man, this hair is magical on the first day of school. So yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. There's a lot of very 2004 elements to this
There's not a lot of movement. There's a lot of product. There is dippity-doo all over the place in this movie.
Yeah, they probably sponsored it.
Yeah, there's a lot of low-rise jeans in this movie. There's a lot of accessorizing with like baggy shirts to go along with tight.
No idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's the fashion, the hairstyles. It is all very period appropriate, even though it was taking place in that exact period of time.
Yeah, it's very of the 21 years ago. In addition to that, if we're just going to talk about a movie that's really set in 2004, one of the things I have a note about, which, again, if I'd watched it at the time, it would have been like, oh, this is the tech.
Oh
Holy
my god.
spit.
Yeah, I've got a note here that the internet doesn't work like that. So, the early part of this movie is, it goes along with Mary, Jenna Malone's character, who introduces herself. She is in high school. She has some very close friends, of which she is apparently in a pop band.
A girl gang for Jesus is how they describe it.
Yeah, yes. Girl gang for it's a K-pop band for Jesus in 2004, basically, where she's playing the keys, the keyboard, the synthesizer, so that Mandy Moore can do Mandy Moore things and sing and be budding pop star. She's not quite full on yet at this point in time. At least in her performance style in this movie. I have a feeling she grew into it a little more.
I wonder if her performance style in this movie... I don't Okay, we're getting away from that. I don't think Mandy Moore's performance style, as far as her music in this movie, is indicative of Mandy Moore.
No.
I think that's indicative of the character and this born-again Christian backwater bullshit. But
oh, yeah. And I more mean in the movie when she sings at the assembly that she
that's
is...
what I mean.
Yeah, she is doing the I am a teen pop star that doesn't yet have stage presence thing, which she grew into eventually.
And again, I'm not sure that is necessarily that Mandy Moore didn't have stage presence in 04, but Hillary Ray had no stage presence.
Hillary Faye.
Hillary Faye. Why Hillary Ray? My bad. How did I get that wrong? But Hillary Faye didn't have stage presence.
Yeah,
I think that's more the issue.
Anyway, so she has this group of besties that she is in high school with. And she has a boyfriend whose name I cannot quite remember at the time. Dean, who is the bestest boyfriend, who is an athlete. However, we are shown that the athletic sport that he is in is solo men's figure skating with a sequined one-piece jumpsuit that says Jesus on the front of it.
As you do.
And he is the bestest boyfriend ever. This is one way of setting up in 2004 that this man is gay as the day is long. And she realizes this when they're in a swimming pool doing a we dunk underwater and tell each other secrets underwater because we're teenagers in the 2000s. And he says, I think I'm gay. And so she is distraught by this because they are good Christians, God-fearing people. And she lands on the only way to be able to save him from his... I'm trying to remember some of the words that they used. One is definitely not appropriate, but the gayness, to get the gay... She's not going to pray the gay away, but she's going to bang the gay away.
I think that was the other commonly used term. And
yes,
then, yeah.
Bang the gay away.
Mm-hmm.
So she decides to throw herself at him, even though he is... clearly very gay and reading a very gay adult magazine just before she comes into the room, which is maybe why he's ready to go for this sexual encounter.
Not maybe. That's absolutely why.
But he just kind of goes with it because the 2000s. And he gets found out by his parents, so he gets sent off to conversion therapy camp. Hooray for America. And she ends up pregnant.
Yeah, pause. Not just America.
That's fair.
Alas, we live in a place that we had to just recently have a fight about conversion therapy. Conversion therapy exists in a lot of places, including Canada.
That's fair.
And it's deeply, it's made out to be funny in this particular movie, and there's a reason for that, and it should be. But I just, we talk religious trauma, we want to talk other trauma. Conversion therapy has caused an awful lot of damage to an awful lot of people.
Yes.
Not just Americans. Americans suck, generally.
Yeah.
America sucks.
Yeah.
In a lot of places, but so too does Canada. We can't let ourselves off the hook.
No. And this movie is very much rooted in taking aim at the religious, specifically the Christian right, I guess you would call it these days.
Yeah, the born again Christian at that point. Yeah.
Anyway, so Dean gets sent off to conversion camp. Jenna Malone is pregnant, doesn't tell anybody, and as part of the technology to bring this all back to the point of the internet doesn't work like that, she types into her search engine on her very 2004 laptop just the word gay and hits search, and it immediately comes up to a Leather Daddy website.
I mean, maybe it did in 2004. I don't know that I looked up gay in 04, though, to be fair.
Jeeves on Ask Jeeves was
Jeeves,
really going hard in the paint.
Jeeves had some stuff he wanted to work through, and he was just helping you out.
You want gay? Here's gay.
Listen, first of all, that's not the voice I ever anticipated Jeeves having from Ask Jeeves. Anyway, this is unrelated.
No, and it's kind of a few points early on in the movie, in probably the first 20 minutes, that is pretty funny in and of itself. Just in that one moment, it's like, okay, it's really, really funny that that's the website that comes up immediately, which is not how the internet works. Also, when Mary and Dean are in the pool and he says, I think I'm gay, and she tries to swim out and is panicked and knowing, she hits her head on the ladder to first getting out of the pool, and it makes the most comical clank sound I've maybe ever heard in like the history of Foley sounds in movies.
Yeah.
Like it made me laugh out loud for like 2 or 3 seconds.
You
where
did
I'm
do
just
that,
like,
yes.
this is like it's like a Wile E. Coyote cartoon.
It's hundreds of beavers.
It's that. And, you know, then obviously as it progresses and she's knocked out, they get her out of the pool and she comes around. This is when she does the internet search to end all internet searches. And then she's essentially at a spot where they're quote unquote parking, where it's all the teenage Christian kids that go to park and definitely don't do anything sexual with each other.
The cars are rocking.
Yeah, the cars are rocking. And as it's scanning over to go to the car that Mary and Dean are in, where she's trying to first make a move on him and he doesn't want to do anything, it pans by one of the SUVs and it has I don't know if you've ever noticed this on this part of the movie, but there's a bumper sticker that says Jesus is coming. And it is
oh, that's fantastic.
Fantastically placed. And it's, I think, the last car before they go like to the shot in the interior with Mary and Dean. So it stays there for just enough time for it to register. I'm like, okay, that's very, very funny.
You would catch that, but well done.
Yeah. And it kind of leads into the initial big discussion, and you started to allude to it a little bit, of this movie. It's classified as a satirical black comedy, teen comedy, a little bit of everything to go together with that. And I think it's certainly a teen comedy through and through. The satirical and I think that even the black comedy part is pretty accurate some of the time, and the satirical comedy part also accurate some of the time.
Sure. Not
necessarily through the whole movie. And one of the things that I actually thought through most of this movie is where it kind of sits in that, you know, in the area of these types of movies, because there's a pretty good history of, you know, these types of movies in all facets. So the teen comedy's been around for a very long time. I mean, going back to the 50s, there was definitely teen movies that were like B movies, but about like kids hanging out on the beach doing beach things. Their job is beach, apparently. Ken was just ahead of its time.
Yeah, his job is just beach.
Yeah, and so there's a history going back a long time of teen movies, but teen movies as they kind of exist now really started to take shape a little bit in the 70s with stuff like Animal House. And then eventually the 80s was kind of the like first golden age of them. Give me all the John Hughes movies, except some of them that don't age very well, like 16 Candles.
I mean, this is the again, setting it socio-cultural. Like, we talked about this with friends last night. Mm-hmm. There are movies like Breakfast Club, for example, that you will go back and watch just to watch, mm-hmm. and know that it hasn't aged well in places.
Totally. Yeah. And that I think that's because teen movies are usually made to be of the moment. Yeah,
because they're meant for the audience is meant to be the people who are experiencing that and growing up and coming of age at that moment, right? Exactly. That's why this is so 2004.
Absolutely.
Oh, my gray hair hurts.
Yeah, it fits right into that. So I think that the teen movie label for Saved fits right in with a lot of other teen movies that were going on at that same time. Interestingly enough, I wonder how this movie would have done if it were released a year earlier. And the only reason I say that is because I looked it up. This movie came out almost a month later than Mean Girls. And Mean Girls was a behemoth of a movie.
Oh, of course it was.
And it dominated popular culture for not only that year, but I mean to the point where they've remade it now and done musical versions of it.
Oh, we still quote Mean Girls.
Exactly.
In fact, my right-hand wing woman and I, in April, always use Mean Girls Day, and It's Gonna Be May for our whole team.
Exactly.
It's like our thing, right?
Like, the burn book has entered the popular culture lexicon.
I am making the inappropriate reference. April is not Mean Girls. Forgive me. April is Miss Congeniality. What is your perfect date?
There you go. Yes, April 16th.
No.
What day is it?
It's the 24th.
24th. Okay. It's been a long time since I've seen Miss Congeniality.
We need to get you referencing Miss Congeniality more.
Yeah. But technically Mean Girls did come out in April of 2004.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And, it was, not only did it dominate the culture, but it also had arguably the biggest teenage actor star that time, Lindsay Lohan, and Rachel McAdams, who was up and coming to also be in that.
And Amanda Seyfried. And was written by Tina Fey, who was close to the height of her SNL fame.
Yeah. And it had a lot of people in it that were either well-known or in the comedy space, like Tim Meadows is in it, who is like an SNL alum. And so Mean Girls was dominating the world, and this movie came out in its wake. And it's honestly while the story's not the same, the premise of the setting and the ostracized person, in certain ways have some parallels. It's not exactly the same.
No, but there's a very clear difference.
Oh yeah,
yes, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it is very much a movie that is coattails is wrong because it did get released in Sundance in January before Mean Girls ever came out. But you have to wonder if it had come out even a year or two before, if it would what the reception would have been better. Might it have been not as good? I don't know. Maybe people were.
There's no way to know.
Yeah, but that is important, I think, for context in the teen movie. But it fits right in there. The black comedy and satire aspect of it is not super consistent all the way through the movie.
Okay.
And it is very, very prevalent at the beginning of the movie and at the end of the movie. Both of those are absolutely dialing up the camp, dialing up the absurdity of the situation, dialing up the absurdity of how these students at this Christian high school talk and think and have a mindset about. And it is pointing out absolutely how absurd some of these things are. The one character, and again, it's, I'm forgetting her name now, the one that is the troubled kid at the school. Cassandra. Mary, Jana Malone's character, refers to her in her inner monologue as her being the only Jewish in our high school, which is, it's a very funny way to refer to someone who's Jewish. But if you are a Christian person that is very used to being white Anglo-Saxon Protestant and not used to diversity at all, the fact that you refer to someone as quote unquote a Jewish is a hilariously camp satirical, oh my god, this is how somebody's actually going to think in this situation. Yeah. So there's a lot of things about it, the way they treat Dean, the gay character, and it's his parents are going to send him away to conversion therapy. There's some things about it where I'm just going to have sex with my boyfriend and he's going to be straight. It's going to be great. It's an absurd premise.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's how it works.
Yeah. And there's all sorts of bits about all the kids, Hilary Faye, Mandy Moore's character, wanting so badly to save someone with the power of Jesus and her Bible that she actually uses as a weapon at one point in time to throw at Mary.
Yeah.
There's a lot of setup early on that is setting this up to be very much a satire and a black comedy. And then it doesn't really go that way for the middle of the film. It becomes very much a teen movie. It becomes a little like what Juno would be at some point in time. And Juno's a fun parallel because of the teen pregnancy aspect of this movie. But once that part really comes into it, it becomes a little more about the high school jealousy stuff and less about the black comedy or the satire. It kind of puts it aside a little bit, except for a couple of moments here and there. And then when they get to the end, which is the homecoming prom.
It's senior prom.
Senior
Matt.
prom.
God.
I didn't have a senior prom growing up, so it was just, we had a grad party.
Were you even watching the movie? It was so important.
But they when it comes to that point, then the satire's really dialed up again, and it ends on quite a few hilarious notes of physical comedy, of mocking some of the mentality around some of the Christian kids that are trying to exact revenge on these, heathens.
Gotta watch over the
essentially.
heathen children, yeah.
And it sort of ends on a note where you're like, okay, yeah, they dialed it back up again. But in the middle of it, it doesn't really invest in on that premise. And there were two movies that I kind of thought was that I have seen before and do really, really commit to the satire through the whole thing. And I think I know you've seen one of them for sure. You've maybe seen both of these.
We're probably thinking of the same too.
One of them is But I'm a Cheerleader.
Yes.
The Jamie Babbitt film
Yep.
that is absolutely hilarious, is the blackest of black satirical comedies from moment one to the end.
Sure.
In the same vein of a John Waters movie.
Okay.
An Election.
Oh, see? That's neither of those. There's one I was thinking of that you didn't pick, but that's fair.
What were you thinking?
Heathers.
Heathers is also in that category, and I guess I think of Heathers separately because it was so much earlier, but in that similar time frame. But Heathers is absolutely it too.
This movie gives me Heathers. It gives me But I'm a Cheerleader. I haven't seen Election, but I want to now. Maybe put it on the list for this. It gives me similar vibes.
Yes.
I know what you're saying about maybe, I don't want to say losing the plot, because I don't think it does.
No,
it does a good job all the way through. It just isn't at the same satire level in the middle.
Yeah.
But you talk about throwing the Bible, that's in the middle of the movie.
Oh yeah. But that also is those are little moments. And when I think of something being a satire,
you think of Best in Show, where it's start to finish.
And I honestly, I do think of But I'm a Cheerleader.
I love But I'm a Cheerleader.
It is absolutely knows what it's going for from the outset and delivers on it 150%. It really goes for this specific look, specific type of acting. We are going as full over the top as possible to make the point of how absurd a lot of this is. And by the end of it, it's mocking this, which is kind of the point of satire. Spinal Tap is a satire through and through because it is really mocking the self-seriousness of heavy metal.
If we had just turned it up to 11
in
this movie. I wonder too, just because I just Googled it, I had to look it up. Election, I didn't know that I'm coming from But I'm a Cheerleader on this one.
Yes.
But I'm a Cheerleader came out in 99.
So did Election.
Okay. Yeah. So both of those movies came out before a pretty significant shift,
yes.
I would think, in just in history and therefore in how people were reacting to stuff. Because I don't know, I wouldn't, Mean Girls you mentioned is a juggernaut, and we reference it to this day. Mean Girls isn't satire.
No, not at all.
Right?
It's it has black comedy elements to it, but it's not a satire.
And so I wonder if this movie had come out before Mean Girls. If this movie had come out before the pretty obvious shift in how people were reacting to everything, because 2003 is when this probably was filmed, right?
And conceived and written.
So you have a very obviously 9/11 and shifted everything. And I wonder if our appetite for true satire wasn't, especially for teens, and I think if you're aiming it at young folks at that point, if the appetite for a true satire wasn't necessarily there in the same way it maybe was before.
Yeah, and I think the audience is a big part of this movie specifically, because I think both Election and But I'm a Cheerleader are not movies aimed at teenagers.
Right. This is a movie aimed at teens, and that makes it a little my sense of humor was absolutely not as good as it is now. Let me just toot my own horn about how freaking funny I am. But I love this movie as an adult, and I loved it as a teen. I think it's aimed at teenagers, and your critical thinking skills as a teenager are not what they are now, right?
Yeah.
That's fair.
I could see a certain section of people watching this movie and the satirical elements at the beginning and at the end going completely over their head.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, and I think that's the part where just in watching it, I was like, I almost wish they'd committed to one or the other a little more.
Yeah, fair.
Because, and I honestly wish they'd committed to the satire a bit more, because they did have such a good setup for it.
It's funny as hell.
Yeah, the story of the movie is a very good setup that I think started out pretty strong, ended really strong, and the middle kind of wanted a little bit.
The middle is very much you've mentioned like it being the teen movie, like it has all the elements. There's the makeover, like, and I think I kind of like that it subverts that, right? Like it's the makeover trope, but it doesn't make her over to be like, oh, you're gonna catch the guy's eye, because she's got it the whole time.
Yeah,
that's not the problem. The problem is she's prego in a Catholic school and needs to hide her baby bump, which. Let's talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, and I do think it's the one thing this movie has going for it is that it does subvert a bit of the I'm trying to get the boy thing, even though that is part of what's going on. She's actively kind of not.
She's actively trying to stay the hell away from the boy.
Yeah.
Because he's the principal's son, and also, you know, she's pregnant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's a very... It's a very interesting, you know, there's some turns in it that I think were really good and really smart, and a few that I felt like, oh man, it's too bad they really didn't go for that.
But I think if you're looking at sort of the center, because I'm thinking of the center part of the movie now, right? Mm-hmm. If we're talking about elements that they maybe were trying to, but again, keeping their audience in mind, right? Like there's the mall scene, there's the we're trying on clothes scene, there's the, you know, the lead up to prom and all of that crazy. We all have to get into like all of that sort of preamble or like that middle bit is very much the cognizant of who their audience was about to be.
And
not the kidnapping. That's different.
And I actually have a little tiny bit of a theory about why that is.
A theory? Wild.
I know. Specifically in these cases, But I'm a Cheerleader and Mean Girls and Election being the ones kind of around it. Other than Election, which I think is a different premise, and I can mention that.
Well, we can come back to that.
This movie's written by two dudes.
Yeah, there is that.
And I feel like the middle part of the movie, because it centers around a female character and her relationship mostly to a group of other female characters, I don't think it's very nuanced or strongly written as far as something unique. It feels very, very tropey in the female high school experience.
Yeah, and yet pretty authentic to a female high school experience, especially if you're the one who's outcast because you've done something you're not supposed to do.
And I think the overarching generalized part of it, yes. But
I'm speaking from experience.
Yeah. But if you go with something like Mean Girls that was written by Tina Fey, or But I'm a Cheerleader that's Jamie Babbitt, or even Juno, which is written by Diablo Cody.
I love Diablo Cody.
The experience in all of those for the female main character feels a little bit more like it's not just what you would do on the surface. Like there's a little more about those relationships between the women that is a little more, it rings a little more authentic to me.
Fair.
And it does kind of make the, you know, those parts of it, which are the main parts of the movie because Mary's the main character, feel a little bit like it's running by a playbook that you've seen in movies before, as opposed to something where you're seeing like more of a female perspective. If it's But I'm a Cheerleader, you're looking through the perspective of a very femme-presenting lesbian woman that you didn't really see presented in movies, which is why But I'm a Cheerleader has become such a big deal and did at the time, because that wasn't shown in movies at all, other than maybe Bound, which I don't know if you've seen before.
But you didn't really have the option of that.
No.
I would like to pick up on a thread here, because I know this is not your experience as not having ever been a teenage girl in a Catholic high school.
Yes.
I think perhaps because of that, you're maybe discounting that a lot of those relationships are not that deep. And full disclosure, not necessarily my experience. I said, I'm talking from experience, and in places I am. But all of my dear close friends that I still talk to that I went to high school and elementary school with are going to listen to this and be like, what? No, not you guys. You're safe.
We love you.
We love you. Hi. We still love you. Hi, everyone. Hi. And Laura, bless you, because I'm sure you just sneezed. That wasn't my experience necessarily with my core group of friends. But in looking at the broader picture, absolutely, right? And I think even now, if we want to look at, and this is maybe why I like this movie, and I think it rings true in places now, because there's been such a friggin' swing back to the alt-Christian right. Bullshit is the only word I'm going to use here. And if you don't like that, the rest of this podcast not going to be for you. Because that's been such an emphatic swing back. If you look at, like, trad wives on Instagram, or the, like, oh, we just believe, the only thing tying a lot of these women together is Jesus.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. So they're not being a more developed friendship, and I think it's funny when they start at the beginning and Mary's doing the intro of everybody, and the third girl, whose name I always forget, Veronica, because it's like, oh, she was adopted by her missionary parents, and that's the reason they have this girl in the girl gang, isn't because she's particularly a good friend. It's because she can do, what can she do for them? She's
a charity case to them.
100%. Well, to Hilary Faye at least. And Hilary Faye's got a lot of charity cases in this movie, and we can come, I'm sure you have thoughts on that. But I think maybe that's why that one rings true for me, is because those, in a sort of cult-like atmosphere that a born-again Christian high school is, and is made out to be in this show, in this movie, there isn't necessarily actual relationships between the people, particularly the women who are given very specific roles and are told, and we're told as women across the board, to be jealous of other women. We're always taught, we're still taught that to this day. It doesn't matter how old you get, I still am supposed to be jealous of the women I see on Instagram, which, if you're a trad wife, good luck to you. But but that's the thing, right? I think, yes, I agree with you. There are other movies that explore that sort of dynamic, and there's a lot more, I think, truth to some of what I've seen as a woman in something like Mean Girls, right? And it gives you a little bit more in-depth as to, like, Regina's personality and how she runs the clique or what have you, but the plastics. But that's not... But I don't think this one misses the mark necessarily. I think it's just focusing on the specific context in which it's set.
Yeah, that's fair. And it being that's a background I don't have, I think I probably see a lot of the things in the high school and the Christian community, and dear God, the pastor that's the principal who's trying so desperately hard to use kid slang. Like, that to me reads as just pure satire, whereas it probably is a lot more true than I would like to know is actually the case.
I mean, it's satirical, but it comes from a nugget of truth, right?
And actually, I read a quote from the director and the head writer, Brian Danley, that he grew up in a Christian high school, and most of what he put in this movie rings pretty true to his experience. So I think that, full power to him for that. But at the same time, I do, in my own personal taste, I would have loved if they had just gone for the blackest of black comedy to really go like, can you see how silly every single aspect of this is? And that's my own personal taste.
That's very fair. And I think, too, just as a sort of addition to this, I went to Catholic school, but Catholic school is publicly funded here. It's not in the States.
No.
Right? And so those are private schools which have their own layer of fuckwittery. And so I think...
Fuckwittery is a great word.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thanks. I do what I can. Keep that one for the future. But it's private school, it's Catholic school, it's all these other things that also, it's isolating, right? It's all of that sort of.
Yeah.
Which, and they can have whatever kind of curriculum they want, yada yada. So I think there's a little bit of element of that too, despite it being the American versus Canadian thing. I will again point out we have conversion therapy here, and we are not free of this bullshit, but...
No, that's true. And it's, I think the summary of my thought that I wrote down as part of this is that this movie is kind of Jesus camp without the camp, meaning... not the actual sleepaway camp.
Well done.
But I was like, oh yeah, if this is gonna be what it's gonna be, I'd like it to be more camp to send it up.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Speaking of things that are a little more around my own personal taste in movies, Macaulay Culkin is maybe my favorite thing about this entire movie.
Macaulay Culkin is easily the best character in this movie, and I say that as somebody who loves the whole thing. But yes.
Not only is he just kind of, like, far better than I think history is going to give him credit for in things that aren't Home Alone, even though he didn't do a lot, actually. He kind of retreated from acting a little bit, which is fair. With how
and
famous
now he's like cool and married to Brenda Song. And
just no big deal.
Life.
He's doing great things.
Has a bunch, but
yes, Kieran has certainly taken up the mantle of being a little more in the public eye than Macaulay has. But he is, not only is he the best thing in this movie, it's almost like he is existing in a completely different movie than everybody else. and is just running circles around everybody else. Like, they're all so concerned about these Christian values in high school, this. And he's just wheeling around in his wheelchair, as he is paralyzed. And I actually didn't realize this until later. His character's name is Roland.
Yeah. Also, I would just like to point out that you just said he's running circles around everybody.
Oh, yeah.
And
He is wheeling circles around everyone. And just kind of unconcerned with anybody else's bullshit. And dropping some of the funniest lines, like when him and his girlfriend are having a coffee and a smoke, because why not, outside of a coffee shop. And they see Mary coming out of a Planned Parenthood because she's asking about being pregnant. And his girlfriend Cassandra makes a remark about there's only one reason why you come out of Planned Parenthood. And Macaulay Culkin goes, Mary's planting a pipe bomb?
Yeah.
Dead. Absolutely dead. Like,
it was pretty fantastic.
Hilarious. That, and when they're in the mall and he's trying to fake busk for money by saying, we'll dance for change. And he's rocking his chair back and forth. The man is hilarious. And also, at the end of the movie, when there's a point where Cassandra gets really upset about getting expelled from school, and she has to take off in her car, which she's retrofitted to be wheelchair accessible for Roland, and she's so distraught about this that she takes off without him. And so he's just there, and he just hangs out by the big billboard of Jesus outside their high school, and just gets left there overnight. And so he's just chilling on the grass. But, like, it's never a woe is me moment. He chills. You know, he's just there contemplating life, pulls himself back up into his wheelchair, heads on back home and wherever it is. And his epiphany at the end of the movie for his girlfriend, who otherwise, even though she's the rebel of the high school, like, is in what would be a pretty healthy looking relationship between the two of them.
You would argue, yeah.
And she's distraught and, oh my God, I shouldn't have left you there. And his big revelation was like, no, I realized that his sister is Hilary Faye. Yes. And that she has this big gigantic Econoline van that they've fitted for him to be able to get in and out of. And she drives him everywhere until he starts dating Cassandra, and then he doesn't really want anything to do with her because she's, a Christian jewel. And he says at the end, he's like, no, I realize that I don't want to be reliant upon somebody else. I was reliant upon my sister, and I became reliant upon you to get from place to place. And you're very kind and good about it, and it's nothing against you, but, like, I need to make sure that I'm more self-reliant. Which is a moment that is so nice. Compared to we just have to be better Christians and accept everybody. And people are still so wrapped up in the Christianity of their, like, even in the voiceover at the end being like, I think Jesus would like me more than this, which they still haven't gotten through the whatever. There's still some Catholicism in a lot of people's brains, even Mary's. And Roland is just like, no, I just need to not be super dependent on others, and I'm okay with that, and I'll move on. And it's a nice moment of growth in and amongst everything else that, like, doesn't fit with everybody else, but is wonderful.
I would argue he doesn't fit with everybody else, but he fits in the movie. Here's my thoughts on this. Also, just Mary's, I don't know that we're gonna beleaguer this point. So you said she, in her voiceover at the end, where she says she still believes in a higher power, essentially, right? Nothing can be this random.
Yeah.
Which, fair, I support that. Again, you believe what you want to believe. I will point out that those of us who are raised in religion, sometimes it sneaks up when you don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting I had a ton of religious trauma, because I don't think that's true. But my good Catholic guilt still shows up, so there's that.
Oh, yeah.
But Roland. Roland is the moral compass of this movie, and is the most mature human in it, including the adults.
Yep.
And Roland is a year older than everybody else, right? He stayed back a year because he fell out of a tree, and that's what that explains his paralysis in his wheelchair. And his sisters need to be like his savior, because that's her one goal in life, is to save people and bring them over to the Lord.
Yeah.
But yeah, Roland can see through everybody's bullshit. I would argue that is probably true of the experience of a lot of folks who are on the outside of any kind of cult-like experience.
Yeah.
Or even just folks who are on the fringes of society, we can see, like, can often see through bullshit. So I appreciate that about Roland. My favorite Roland moment is at the beginning, before the hard R gets dropped, when he asks Hilary Faye, "Are we sure Jesus is supposed to be white?" Like, that sets the whole movie for me.
Yeah. Very
Roland
good.
is my fave.
He's far and away. He's running away with that movie from the word go, basically. Yeah, love it. This is a fun note that just was a random cameo in this movie. There is a good 60 to 70 seconds of Valerie Bertinelli hamming it up to the extreme as the star of a fake Lifetime movie on a commercial that they're watching. And, like, I just want to know Valerie Bertinelli's story of, like, how she got a hold of, well, yeah, I got approached to do this thing. It was half a day of acting. They got me to act like the hammiest cancer patient of all time for a Lifetime movie. And I got paid. Like, I feel like she got this and was just like, this is hilarious. I will do the absolute most with my 60 seconds on screen.
I'm in for it. I like Valerie Bertinelli in general, and hilarious.
She's great, but it's just such a hilarious cameo of, like, oh, we got Valerie Bertinelli, and she is going to, like, do this movie where she's talking about getting cancer was actually what saved her because Jesus.
Well, and I think, keep in mind, that's also an important plot sort of driver in that she talks about how they thought she was pregnant, but she just had cancer.
She just had cancer.
And I think that's a direct quote. That's not me saying that to be facetious. And so that, gives Mary a little bit of hope in this moment, and I think that sort of, like, please be cancer, where she's going to Planned Parenthood, is kind of wild because nobody asks for that. But if that doesn't allude to the religious trauma of what this girl has grown up with.
You've given me the perfect segue line there.
I try so
and I
hard.
appreciate you because
I do what I can.
The religious trauma part comes in the moment that I've actually alluded to already, where Mary is upset at Hilary Faye, and Hilary Faye is trying to chase her down in the street, and Mary wants nothing to do with her. I think this is after she tries to go to her house where they're praying the gay away from Dean.
Yes.
And they chase the prayer circle, and they chase after Mary in her van, and she gets out, and she's trying to chastise Mary for not being a good Christian. At this point in time, Mary already knows she's pregnant, so she's pretty much done with their bullshit, reads her what for, and starts walking away. And Hilary Faye throws her Bible at her right in the back. And I don't know if it's a line directly from it, but Mary picks up and goes, "This is not a weapon." And I'm like, Bible as a weapon is maybe one of the most, like, on the nose and hilarious, but also scarily accurate themes of this movie.
Yep.
Because the history of using the Christian religion and people's belief in it as a weapon against others is centuries old.
Yeah, and I think that's true of a lot of organized religions, but yes, there is a very lengthy history of Christianity doing damage, and, like, well, it's in the Bible, right? Leaning on the Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, which, fun sidebar, there was, and I can't credit the person because I don't remember, but I saw this Instagram reel that was like, the Bible said Adam and Eve, so I slept with them both.
Yeah.
Lol.
Bisexual humor.
But really gives a new meaning to throw in the book at them, doesn't it?
Yeah. And again, one of the really nice actual satirical moments in the movie, which is, again, very on the nose. And it's like, you could quite literally summarize the entire movie as popular girl throws Bible at less popular girl. And that pretty much sums up 80% of what this movie is, which is always a fun experiment.
Well, and I think, too, if we're going to talk a little bit about, you said less popular girl, I think fallen girl is a more interesting way of putting that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because she's very popular in the beginning. She's in exactly where she's supposed to be. And then she's fallen because she's had sex with the gay man and is now pregnant.
Yeah.
And interesting that other Marys in the Bible are pregnant for the first time after still being virgins?
Yes.
Question mark.
Which she makes pretty direct reference to at one
that
point.
parallel is really interesting. So, but yeah, I think you can summarize it as throwing the Bible in the literal and metaphorical sense. Also, I think only truly crazed born-again Christians... I've talked a lot about my experience, I think, today. I've talked about my experience with Catholicism. I will say I don't know anyone in my life in any way, shape, or form who ever tried to kidnap somebody to help save them.
Yeah.
Like, that kidnapping scene is both hilarious and deeply disturbing, but yeah, the throwing of the Bible is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
The Bible is not a weapon, you idiot, I believe is the actual line.
Yeah, it's a fun little moment, which is, again, in the middle of the movie where it was diverting to other things. I was like, okay, this is a very good piece of writing. Well done. I like it. Keeping it with a little teen movie thing, and this is part of this era, I think, of teen movies. And having been a teenager just a little bit before that, like I graduated high school in 2000. Because I'm old.
You're so old.
And so again, this might be colored by my experience, but I think also a little bit, in fact, no, just in the eras of when I was a teenager. The note is that soundtracks to teen movies really fell off. And at the end of the movie, when we were watching the credits go by, I actually was like, okay, I want to look at some of the songs. There was a couple that I had picked out, and a couple that I didn't quite pick out, like the replacements, where I was like, oh, yeah, right. There was Skyway was in this. Okay, cool. But I wanted to kind of look up, like, maybe I missed a few things, because teen movies, starting in the 80s and definitely going through the 90s, the soundtrack to a teen movie was almost, I bet, half the marketing campaign with some of them. Like, there were some soundtracks that were absolute bangers to teen movies. Some that actually overshadow the movie. Like, I mentioned 16 Candles. There's as much as going back to it, there's a lot of problematic things in it. The soundtrack is legendary. The Pretty in Pink soundtrack, legendary. A lot of those John Hughes movies. Breakfast Club, legendary soundtrack.
Yeah, totally.
You go through a lot of the 90s teen comedies, especially the later teen comedies like Can't Hardly Wait, which is not a tremendous movie, but the soundtrack absolutely rips as a teenage, like, capturing the high school 90s ears. They're so good. And this one was at a point where I think the high school movie soundtrack was not as important anymore, or the emphasis wasn't placed on it by the people creating the movies, or like maybe it wasn't as big of a marketing tool as it maybe used to be. I know they still had songs that got very popular because they were in movies, but I was trying to think of 2000, like early 2000s movie song tie-ins and like music videos and things. And the ones that came to mind were like Spider-Man was the really not very good Outcast movie, Idlewild, and eventually going into like Garden State, which is a very different type of soundtrack.
Yeah, I was gonna say Garden State's the one I think of, but we're talking 2000s. But
and that one it was less about like capturing moments in the teen experience, quote unquote, or like soundtracking youth, as it was becoming like a curated experience of this is the type of music these characters would be into. Like Garden State without its soundtrack is a very, very different feeling movie, because the characters aren't listening to the Shins and aren't listening to deep cuts from Simon and Garfunkel and Nick Drake, or listening to like a really, really great Iron and Wine cover of Such Great Heights, which is very coded in that era. But it coded in that era of being like, this is what the cool kids listen to. Mm-hmm. And the only other soundtrack I thought of that
makes people insufferable.
Yeah, no kidding. And I honestly, like, I haven't seen Garden State in a long time.
Me either.
Probably going back to it, I know automatically there's some things that would be a tough sell. But I do remember liking Garden State a lot more for a longer time than a lot of people did. And I don't know, like, there's some stuff in it.
It's the music, that's why.
Well, but the music, like, there's some stuff in there that I resonate with, I think, a little bit longer than maybe other people did. I don't know. I haven't seen it in a while, so I could be totally off base with that.
It also came out in 2004.
It did, yeah.
I had to look it up.
And the only other soundtrack from the 2000s that I can think of that like made an impact in a way that wasn't the teen comedy or teen movie is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Ah, I love that movie.
Because that was a big deal, but in a completely different way, because it was honestly introducing a lot of people to very, very, very old school Delta blues music in an era that most people aren't super familiar with. And even including people that were more modern, like Alison Krauss and other singers that you would hear normally. But like that soundtrack is T-Bone Burnett being T-Bone Burnett and making taste out of it. And they won like Grammys for it. Mm-hmm. So it's the soundtrack thing in this movie, I didn't recognize as much of it, and I just, again, in comparison to what it used to be and what it became, was like, oh yeah, this was a real transition point from what movie soundtracks were to what they kind of became as far as what the quote-unquote best ones were. Isn't really a deeper point to it, just more of a like, right, this used to be the thing where you would just randomly hear like a pre-fame Blink-182 and Can't Hardly Wait. And it was like, oh, everybody became a Blink-182 fan because they heard Damn It and Can't Hardly Wait. And then they became really big. And it was like, yes, we are soundtracking the youth. Now it was just like, okay, this is a little less important, which is fine. Anyway.
I like that this was not a big point and you went on about it for 5 minutes.
No, it did, like, not a point that has a lot of depth that we need to spend a lot of time on.
I'm just messing with you. It's music. We always talk about it for a long time.
This was a funny note at the end at the prom where it was such a big deal that Hilary Faye got the Christian boy band that I'm forgetting the name of.
Yeah.
It got them to come and play the prom, and that was a really big deal. And then we get into the prom scene where they are playing whatever song it is, and to their credit, the boy band appears to be playing live, which is cool, or they live recorded and were lip syncing along to it, which is also quite cool. But you know that because right before they go into the chorus,
I know where you're going.
And there's a record back scratch where they're like, "No, the heathens are here. They can't be at our prom. Principal, please throw them out." There's a moment where the singer goes to hit a high note and like isn't even remotely close to hitting the high note, and it's almost like his voice crackles.
Yeah.
And it's like, but what? Couldn't have had another take at that one?
Nope.
That's their attempt at hitting the high note?
No, it was perfect. Don't ask questions.
Auto-tune existed at that point in time. T-Pain was doing his thing. Hey there, girl.
No
what's
T-Pain.
Your name? My brother will hate that reference.
There is no T-Pain in this podcast, which is not to shit on T-Pain, because I think he's done a lot of good. Anyway,
T-Pain's pretty great.
The point of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just, I had to, that was the only part I had to rewind to make sure I wasn't insane.
Yeah, you made me stop the movie so we could go back and hear it a second time.
Yeah, and it was his voice really, it almost didn't even try. It just knew the note it was hitting, and it just went, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you
Good
do what
times.
you can.
Well, we're all human, I guess.
Can't be Nashville every night.
Even Jesus can't help you hit the high note.
So much Jesus.
Anyways.
Did he bring eggs?
No, he didn't bring eggs in this one. However, he did bring the 20-foot tall billboard, which brings me to the ending of the movie. And the part where after it's been found out that Hilary Faye is the one. So again, if you've seen the movie, you know this. Part of the ostracizing of Mary and Cassandra is that they've been framed by Hilary Faye for spray painting anti-Christian graffiti all over their school in the most ridiculously simple way possible. It's, we'll just plant the spray paint in their lockers. Look, they're guilty. And really it was Mandy Moore, who just then also hid the receipt and other cans of spray paint in her van for anybody to find later.
Well, no one said they were good criminals.
You dumb Hilary Faye. And so she gets found out at the prom by producing a receipt, quite literally. And she is removed from the prom. And at one point, Then Dean and his friends and now his boyfriend from the conversion camp, because of course that happened. There's some moments in the movie where Mary's calling Dean to see how he's doing, and he's there with his male roommate, who he thinks is really cute, which is the most natural joke of all for things like a conversion therapy camp that But I'm a Cheerleader hits on. It's like, we're trying to convert the gay out of you with all of these other people that are like you and you might find attractive, and oh no, what have we done?
That's the thing, right?
It's like, it's a great joke for that, because like, yeah, cool, we're here to convert you, but
we missed the point.
We missed the point completely. But Dean and his friends from the camp have stolen a van and come to the prom because Dean wants to go to his senior prom because he wants to be with his friends and he deserves to be with his friends, and they've escaped and blah blah blah. So they want to be there too. There's this whole scene out in the parking lot, and Hilary Faye grabs her rather sizable cube van and is angry. So she has decided she is going to take a run at the Jesus billboard, because she's so upset that Jesus has punished her for doing the things she did to teach others a lesson in the name of Christianity. Again, the absurdity's dialed way up at the end, and I'm here for it.
I think we should start calling him Billboard Jesus. Anyway.
BBJ.
Ooh.
So she speeds along in her van, is barreling right towards the billboard of Jesus, is going to crash into it, but what I'm assuming would be because they either didn't have a stunt driver or not enough budget to do an actual good crash, she sort of hits the brakes and skids a little side scraping, mildly inconveniencing Billboard Jesus's left shin, and getting into this car crash, as they put it, which the only thing it results in is the head of the Jesus billboard breaking off, crashing down on top of her windshield, not even breaking it, but face down, to which Hilary Faye exclaims, "Jesus Christ!" Which is a hilarious joke.
I literally have written down that exact, that whole scene of the Jesus head falling and "Oh, Jesus Christ." I cackle every time. It's so perfectly done.
Quite funny. And just the fact that it continues to be referred to as a car crash, when it just basically looks like this crazy white girl, backed her car into a parking, meridian and scraped it ever so slightly. Car crash.
Now, in defense of Hilary Faye, senior prom didn't go how she thought it was going to, and all the misfit toys showed up, and she's got a pimple. It's an awful night for this girl.
Maybe she just threw back a few shots of Fireball before she was driving,
Let's
and
not
that explains
get wild.
it.
No, there was no
holy
drinking.
Water.
That's
sacramental wine.
Oof, that shit's strong.
Yeah.
Not that I know anything about that. No, it's great. It's the "Oh Jesus,"
Jesus Christ, yeah.
Exclamation kills me every time.
That was quite funny, and it goes into the rest of the ending, and the ending is the satire is again dialed way up in the ending, and I appreciate a lot of the ending, more than a lot of the middle lead up to it, as we've talked about. There's again a lot of very funny lines. There's one where the ambulance arrives not because Hilary Faye is actually hurt, but Mary is going into labor because her due date was 2 days after the prom.
It's supposed to be 2 weeks after prom, I think. Yeah.
So she is now a little bit early, so she needs to go to the hospital. And the ambulance shows up, and they open the doors, and she's on the gurney bed going into the ambulance, and there is Patrick Fugit, who is just named Patrick in the movie, who has now become the boyfriend of Mary throughout all of this. We have Dean, who is the father, and we have Dean's boyfriend. Not sure what his name is.
I think it's Mitch.
Mitch, sure, could be that. And there's a really great moment where all three of the boys are looking in, making sure Mary's okay. And they're saying, we only got room for one more person. And it goes in line with Patrick going, "I'm the boyfriend." Then it goes to Dean and says, "I'm the father." And then Dean's boyfriend points to Dean and goes, "I'm his boyfriend."
Yeah.
Very funny line read for that one. And then eventually Mary Louise Parker, who plays Mary's mom, gets in instead, because get out of the way, boys.
Yeah. I think the line is, I'm the father, I'm her boyfriend, I'm his boyfriend, which is just fucking delightful.
Yeah, it's quite funny. And then she goes and has the baby, who's very new and definitely not almost 6 months old.
I mean, that's always the case with infants in a movie, but yeah.
But the ending, again, even though the satire's really dialed up, it feels like there's sort of two endings going on at the same time. And again, it's the two endings that are a little bit at odds through the movie. There's the one very satirical ending that is thumbing its nose at the religious aspect of it. And there's the part that is we're still Christians and we're just good people, but now we're not doing the damage that Hilary Faye and her crew have been doing.
Yeah.
That we're the good Christians now. And they're kind of going on at the same time with different characters. And it doesn't quite come together as much as you might like for something like that. Like, sure. There might, logically speaking, if you were following certain things, it might be like, okay, she's had the baby out of wedlock with a gay man who has escaped conversion therapy and is giving them the middle finger. There's going to be a whole bunch of people at the high school and in their community that are going to be upset about that still. It's not just hunky-dory now. And, like, it can be all good for the individual characters, which I think for the most part it is. But it is a little sort of, and they all lived happily ever after, which it's a teen movie, so.
And I mean, it seems that way, but you don't actually know that.
Oh yeah, but it's in the way it's presented by the end of it. You don't know for sure, but it's like everything's great and
everything's gonna be fine.
Yeah, whereas
we're fine.
Yeah, it sort of has the two bits going on, which give it the nice little bow at the end of it that probably some of the audience would have really wanted, but doesn't necessarily resolve things in a way it's like, and everybody learned to be better except for the ones who didn't.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, so the ending has a lot of really funny parts to it, because the setup is great, and at least Jana Malone didn't have to wear the pretty bad low budget pregnancy suit anymore. Felt like she was wearing a overweight suit rather than a pregnancy suit. Well,
I think that's partly the uniform situation, which I have thoughts on. But
could be, but yeah. So it kind of ends, and it has a few nice little moments, and it's like,
and then there's a Mandy Moore version of a song that made you angry.
Oh my god! And at the beginning, it was also in the opening and closing credits. Look, I love the Beach Boys. The Beach Boys are one of the great pop groups in the entire history of music, and God Only Knows is one of the greatest songs ever written. It really is, full stop, no qualms of any kind whatsoever.
It doesn't need a cover.
Oh my, well, and I've heard some good covers of God Only Knows that don't deviate from the original too much, and normally the ones I like the best are the ones that have a new spin on a cover. Sure. Like there's one by, and I might be getting this wrong, from the early 2000s around now, by a musician and a band called Susanna and Her Magical Orchestra. And it's wonderful. She has a really kind of lilting voice and doesn't try too hard with it. And it's pretty close cover, but it's nice. Mandy Moore is singing in the cover of this. And for the most part, she's kind of just like, okay, I'm just doing God Only Knows. That's fine. And then in the final singing of the chorus, the God only knows what I'd be without, she's doing it in a higher key that's not even the right higher key change. She's just doing a 90s 2000 pop diva thing of being like, and I'm a powerful singer and I will do. It's like, oh my god, this is terrible.
I knew you had rage about that. I didn't want us, I would be remiss not to bring your rage up.
Yes.
Yeah.
So very distracting and just poor. If you're gonna sing a cover, that's fine. If you just kept with doing the other one, it's like, okay, this is harmless. She's in the movie. We've got her to sing a thing. God Only Knows. It's a Jesus movie. We're all saved. Sure, it fits. It's congruous. But then that happened, and I was angry from the opening credits of that, just being like, no, Mandy Moore, you're better than this, Mandy Moore. My God. Anyways, the only other point that I had to bring up before I'll pass it to you to anything that you wanted to bring up as well are the adults in this movie, specifically the two parents.
Oh, hey, that was one of the things I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Man, the adults.
The adults, yeah. So the two main adult roles in this movie are Mary's mom, which is played by Mary Louise Parker, whom is wonderful, who is in the middle of either starting to be in the lead character in Weeds, or it was right in that time.
Yeah.
Weeds is a fantastic show.
Yes.
I adored that show. And Martin Donovan, who plays the pastor, principal of the school, / also Patrick's dad, who comes to the school late because he's been in Brazil on what they call a missionary trip, which is actually him skating for the Christian Skateboard Association, the CSA. And he has one moment where he does an ollie onto a bench and then rolls off of it. And if that's the only qualification you need to skate in the CSA, there's a lot of very talented skateboarders I grew up with that would like to have a word with them.
That's all I need.
Yeah.
Yep.
But the two main adult roles, Mary's mom is a single mom. Mary's dad died when she was very young. There's a whole thing in her early inner monologue about how, her mom talked to her about her dad being, in heaven in a better place, explaining like you would in a Christian family. And so she's basically doing the single mom thing. And very, very early on, that Mary's mom and the pastor are hooking up at some point in time. They're off at like a retreat, or what she says is a counseling session.
No, it's because she sits on the council of, I can't remember the actual phrasing, but basically she's on like a Christian women's something or other.
Yeah.
And so like the Future Homemakers of America probably sort of thing. And so she's at this like event or meeting or what have you.
They're at a hotel. She's working out in the gym, and the pastor walks by her and make the most awkward bad white boy flirting in a gym of all time. And, you get it. You really early on, you're like, okay, she's hooking up with the pastor. Mm-hmm. All right. The pastor is Martin Donovan, who plays awkward characters really, really well.
He's an awkward ass man in this. Holy
he's good
smokes.
casting in this. He also is the world's worst I'm a hip modern pastor dude. I'm just like you kids in the assembly. Like
I mean, that you're talking about. He's hello fellow kids.
That is exactly, except for hello fellow Jesus followers. And the assembly is hilarious. And again, the satirical setup for it is so great. It made me upset that it didn't keep going with that level of cheese. But he is doing he's basically being a pastor that you would see in a meme now, or a video or a reel on TikTok of like, look at how terrible these people were in the 90s, of just like neon tracksuits and talking about like, hey, I'm running in my new tracksuit. You know who I'm running for? I'm running for Jesus. Like,
I'm running for Jesus.
Yeah, and then just like using bad kid slang to try and...
He's trying so hard.
He's trying far too hard. And it makes him look obviously like a massive try hard. And later on, when you see, there's only really one scene with Patrick and his dad when they're at home, and Patrick is very clearly chastising his dad for not moving on for his mom dying. So you find out that...
No.
Or sorry, getting divorced. Pardon me.
Yeah. He has... Sorry, I was like... This one is... Sorry, I cut you off. That was so rude.
No, that's correct.
But he's chastising his dad for not divorcing his mother, and the reasoning that Pastor Skip gives is you don't get divorced as Christians. Yeah. And that is such a common thread.
Yes, totally.
That is so upsetting, because there are, for a variety of reasons, it sounds like this is just an unhappy marriage and that happens. Mm-hmm. But there are people who use that as a justification to stay married when things are abusive and other things, right? So I think it highlights an important issue without being like beating you over the head with it.
Yeah.
But,
and that's a rare moment of character depth for any of the adults in this movie. So, that's quite nice. And eventually he does kind of get up some courage to talk to Mary's mom, and they probably are going to make all sorts of wonderful Christian children going forward, or maybe not, and maybe they'll just bang each other out of sin.
Which is good, because their children are also going to be banging each other out of sin, maybe.
Yeah, that's a plot point nobody really thought through too much, of just like...
Or maybe they did and just thought, we'll leave it there.
the boys walking out of 2 different bedrooms high-fiving each other for
Ew,
Jesus.
no, gross, ew.
Yeah, that is to quote my one of my favorite questions in the rewatchables. That is an unanswered question, or an unanswerable question that probably don't want the answer to. So.
Correct. We'll just leave that right there. Thank you.
But the adults in this movie are very purposefully kind of the most clueless and useless, especially emotionally. They're very stunted emotionally because they're following a lot of these Christian teachings, and they're very conflicted, but they are bottling it in and holding it so that it destroys them ever so slowly, like good Christians should, apparently.
I think that's not inaccurate for a lot of folks, especially in that born-again Christian kind of way. Yeah.
And it does, that it's actually a teen movie thing where a lot of teen movies will make the adults seem very bumbling. You think of The Principal and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Yeah, being so single-mindedly obsessed with catching Ferris Bueller skipping school.
Yeah.
That and it's Jeffrey Jones, and he's a wonderfully hilarious comedic actor who always plays it very serious and is just genuinely funny. And he's great in that role, but it makes the adult feel bumbling and the kids feel like they're the smartest in the room.
The adults are very much made to be bumbling on purpose. Yep. I think the character development briefly you get at the end with Mary Louise Parker's character. Mm-hmm. Mary's mom, whose name I can't remember because really she just serves the purpose of being Mary's mom.
Yeah.
She has this moment of I'm not sending her away to the conversion camp bullshit because she's my child and I love her. Mm-hmm. And it kind of breaks that I've just been doing what a good Christian does this whole time. So yeah, I think it's the one she gets kind of not even a redemption arc, but she gets a little character development. Let's put it that way.
Yes. And that's common of teen movies of this style. You don't often get a lot of the adult characters that have some good moments. There are a few, Tim Meadows in Mean Girls as the principal.
He's great.
He's got some great moments, but he doesn't necessarily have super deep character development.
No, but Tim Meadows is great.
Yeah, the only movie that really has that I can think of is Election, because, and as we eventually will watch Election because it's great, and Reese Witherspoon it's one of her early great roles.
And we'll have a whole podcast about it.
But that movie is actually told mostly from the perspective of the principal, of Matthew Broderick. And it really, he is, even though Reese Witherspoon, Tracy Flick, is the central performance of that movie, it's kind of a co-lead situation, and most of the, change or character development comes from the principal. So that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there are more where they have some deeper adult characters, but yeah, it makes sense. If it's a movie for teens, you focus on the teen characters. So like I said, that kind of brings me to the end of my list, and I know you probably have lots to bring up and say with this one, so please, the floor is yours.
Well, I think you segued really nicely into something I wanted to talk about with Pastor Skip in the assembly. Mm-hmm. And it also happens at the prom, but the assembly is really an interesting place for it.
Yeah.
Because the prom scene's kind of a standard teen comedy thing.
Mm-hmm.
This assembly is so born-again Christian.
Oh, boy.
And just in that, over and over you see this, we're just, lighters up for Jesus sort of situation.
Hand in the air, one hand on the chest. Praise Jesus. Very, Baptist church.
My God is an awesome God situations. Mm-hmm. Which, whatever. Cassandra starts speaking in tongues.
Yeah.
Which I was like, hello. But she's actually just using a different language to talk about her lady bits, which is fucking great.
Yeah.
And then there's this inside voiceover of everybody going, oh my God, is she going to show her tits? Which she does. And it's great. But it's interesting because until she starts doing that, or even in the beginning when the Christian Jewels are singing, and as you pointed out, they all have pins, the 3 girls. It's their versions of being the Pink Ladies.
Yeah.
Which, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. But she, Hillary Faye is singing and blah, 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 whatever, fine. And everyone's just kind of like, my God is an awesome God. Sitting in the audience, whatever. And then Pastor Skip shows up, and it's like a fucking rock star showed up. And they're like, yeah, we're up applauding for our
laser
cool,
show. Pew, pew, pew.
Our cool dude. It's very funny. So... But I think it does a good job of kind of portraying that little bit of a in those sort of crowd scenes with the kids of being like, these are scenes of cult worship.
Oh, yeah.
Which is absolutely accurate, I think.
This is the same, it's almost the same thing as that one scene in, is it Clone High, where the one person gets up and it's the, y'all ready for God?
I need to start doing that from now on. So there's that. There's two other sort of general points. I have one that's a little bit bigger, one that's not. We talked about 2004 and the very 2004 outfits.
Yes, the 2004 of it all.
Yes. Ooh, that's a good line. The beginning of this movie, everyone is wearing a uniform. Mm-hmm. So why is it that no one questions when Mary stops wearing the uniform and starts wearing baggy shirts and she somehow gets away with hiding her pregnancy?
Well, because she's a heathen and we don't want to disturb the devil in her.
Yeah, it's just interesting how it's this constant, everybody's wearing uniforms, which was my experience in Catholic high school. And then all of a sudden this girl is wearing not that, and they have this whole makeover scene where they buy clothes using Hilary Faye's credit card hilariously at the maternity store so that she can, cover up her belly, which was also very much a 2000s thing, I think, of being more covered. Now we're like, whatever, I have a bump. Hi, I'm about to give birth. Yeah. I'm a uterus owner and I'm having a child. But yeah, it was just this really interesting. Why happens with the uniforms? And I think for me, the uniforms are almost this for Mary, and I think for Cassandra and for Roland and for some of the other ones, the uniforms unraveling are the uniformity of this like cult worship unraveling for them. So them becoming less and less uniform is actually A, accurate because why, and B, is their relationship with the Lord is becoming less and less the same. Whatever that looks like, or what they believe in.
But plot holes with Jess.
But what?
That's a plot hole.
Oh, yeah. I was like...
There are whole YouTube channels about, like, I'm going to poke plot holes in every movie I watch, and that's, like, it's a bit.
Oh, yes, so, I'm not here to I'm not here to poke plot holes. The uniforms, I think, serve a purpose, but also, if anyone was paying attention in this movie, they would have known Mary was pregnant well before they did, and that, like, ultrasound fell out of her locker when they were checking for the spray paint, because Mary was clearly hiding something.
Do you think it's because the high school is named American Eagle?
Perhaps.
I actually thought of that. I wondered if American Eagle had to actually pay to get sponsorship in this. And the only reason I wondered that afterwards is because there is one very blatant piece of sponsorship in this movie where Patrick asks Mary if she wants to go out after class. We're all going to DQ. I was like, oh my god, how much did Dairy Queen have to pay to get their name in this Sundance movie? And I wondered if, because it's American Eagle Christian high school, whatever it is, I was like, wonder if that's a reference.
Could be. There's a few... I'm going to talk about the thing that I think bothers me the most about this movie, and then I'll talk about a few hilarious things that you missed or didn't pick up on, or maybe did but just didn't talk about.
Yeah.
Alright, get ready for this one. My biggest problem with this movie, and it is very much a product of its time in addition to some of the stuff we've already talked about, is the fat shaming.
Yes.
I have a real issue with how that is handled. For those of you who haven't seen the movie or have, but it's been a bit, Hilary Faye is the pretty girl with the most 2004 haircut of layers. Real talk, this fucking pulling the bottom part of our mullets down and like braiding it while the layers on the, oh my god, we were so wrong in 2004. Anyway, but she's very much the pretty girl, and because Roland is her brother, when she does something to upset them and, she tries to kidnap them and ostracizes, yada yada, this is before the spray paint. This is what leads to the spray painting. They go, and he pulls out this picture of Hillary before she's sent to fat camp, and she lost all this weight, and she no longer has headgear, but it's really the prime part of this joke is that she's fat.
Yeah. And now she's fat and ugly, and now she's pretty and skinny.
And so look at her, she's tried so hard to hide this, and they put it as the background on everyone's computers, and she loses her mind. Yeah. And there's not a lot said more about that, but because 2004 is set in heroin chic, like, let's get super skinny.
Tail end of it, yeah.
Yeah, and to be fair, we're coming back to that. Mm-hmm. And, there's a whole lot of, like, the political climate tends to associate with that sort of push. And I want to just be clear that 2000 skinny was like women who were size 8 being called plus size and fat shamed and all these things. And to be fair, Hilary Faye doesn't look like there's nothing. She looks like a teenager in those pictures, right? Mm-hmm. But it's this fat shame. So that is my biggest issue with this movie. I'm not surprised it's a plot device based on when it's made. I didn't love it then. I don't love it now. And it's unfortunately still accurate for where we're at in the world.
Yeah. There's actually quite a bit of shaming in certain parts of it. You could probably, I think the Jewish slamming part of it is more a plot device than anything, because they're not really slamming the Jewish religion. It's just ostracizing, she's a Jewish.
Yeah.
There is also a good amount of some ableist prejudice and some stuff against, even though they have Macaulay Culkin's character being in a wheelchair, there is definitely some jokes that are thrown in there that are not tremendous. The only reason I think they probably think they get away with it there is that he's giving it back to them just as good as he's getting it.
Yeah.
Sticking up for himself, because he's kind of one of the few people that does early on and throughout the whole movie. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that is also a very early 2000s thing. There was a lot to be learned by society in general and in people in general about those things. But yeah, spot on.
Yeah, and shame is such an important part of that particular kind of religion that, you know, there's that too.
And a big part of high school, to be
honest.
And
a big part of high school. And a big part of growing up. But yeah, fat shaming, not a fan. Okay, now to end this, here are things that made me laugh that I either forgot about or remembered, but you didn't mention. I just want to bring them up because they're funny.
Lightning round.
Yeah. When Mary's doing her voiceover intros at the beginning, and she talks about when they do the underwater and she finds out Dean's gay, and she's like, I needed advice. The cut, the aggressive, abrupt, violent cut from I needed advice to Mandy Moore shooting guns is so violent and so fucking hilarious.
Yeah, and actually just the casual shooting guns at the gun range for high school kids. Mm-hmm. It's very America coded.
Well, and where is Mandy Moore shooting? Is it the crotch of the dude?
Yeah.
Like, it's so good. It's just so beautifully well done. And then I think the only other one that I was like, I need to talk about this. I'm just making sure. Tia, actually, as a character, is really funny because she so wants to be there. And then when she's there, she's like, no, fuck this.
Yeah.
You're all terrible. And she's the one who spoils the plot. Love her. But my other favorite one is when they go to pick Dean up for the first day of school. Mm-hmm. And Hilary Faye sends Mary into Dean's house to get him because he's not coming. He's not exiting.
Not there. Yeah.
He's not exiting the home to get into the van. Mm-hmm. And Mary goes, and this is when his parents go, we're sorry, Mary, but we found the gay porn in his bedroom and we're sending him away, and our bad, but sorry to you. You're such a nice Christian girl. And close the door. And she turns around, she goes back to the van, and Hilary Faye says, is he coming out or not?
Yeah.
And Mary just says, not. And the double entendre of that line, knowing what we do as the audience about Dean, is so good.
Yeah, that's good.
Anyway.
I'd forgotten about that one.
Is he coming out or not? Not. Yeah. Billboard Jesus, had a lot of thoughts about him. And then, yeah, that's kind of it. There's also some fun inconsistencies because it's filmed in Canada. Prom is shot in a cold part of the time, I'm sure, because you can see people's breath.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which made me laugh.
Yeah, which I think this is supposed to take place in Maryland. Something tells me Maryland in June
is not cold enough to see someone's breath.
Not even close.
No, it's not at all. But anyway, the cut is a thing you normally catch. But yeah, it was the cut to that. And hilariously, for me, because I have a personal experience with weird commercials violently cutting in on a Mandy Moore, it's kind of full circle for me.
Yeah.
Because that's the walk to remember Hello Fashion Lovers thing for me.
Which I don't know if you've ever explained on here, but you have a very good friend that...
I have not, yeah.
Okay, you have a very good friend from university that you had the joke about watching A Walk to Remember, and then
we watched it together. We were watching A Walk to Remember on a Sunday that perhaps took place after several drinks on the Saturday. And it was on TV, and we were just hanging out on the couch, and that is during the time when a Canadian retail company, Reitmans, had commercials where these two campy ass dudes would yell, "Hello, fashion lovers," to start the commercial. And if you've ever seen A Walk to Remember, because we're talking Mandy Moore's career here, it's that moment when says something to her and she goes, "I told you not to fall in love with me." And it cuts to commercial and there's not even a breath. It's just this violent cut of, "I told you not to fall in love with me." Boom. Hello, fashion lovers. Still one of the funniest things to this day that's ever happened. She's in my phone that way. For a while, her ringtone was her yelling "Hello, fashion lovers" at me in my phone. If she's listening to this is hilarious, and I still love it so very much. And hi! But yeah, so the violent cut of that in my in my past to this like violent cut of "I needed advice." Boom. Yeah. Shotgun. Great. That's it. That's it for me. That's my everything, all thoughts, because you covered a lot of what I wanted to talk about anyway. So
that's fair.
How unlike us.
Yeah. So that's saved. That was my first time.
I hope so, because we have to record it again.
That was my first time watching Saved.
Yeah, so now at the end, what'd you think?
So it's one of those movies where like I can really appreciate that it's a really good setup. The bones of this movie are set up to be something that could have been really, really like really special and really carried over, I think, if it wasn't in a time when it came out right around Mean Girls.
Fair.
I do think it probably got a little overshadowed in history, and I have no proof of that because I hadn't watched it until now, but seems like it would be like another gangster movie coming out 2 weeks after The Godfather. Like, yeah, you're going to get overshadowed. It had a lot of things going for it that I don't think quite came together to be really, really like something that would live on for a lot of people like Mean Girls does. And for me, as somebody not having a lot of experience in not going to a Catholic high school, there's less relatability. So I think my desire for wanting it to be blacker and more satirical comes from that. Because so much of it to me seems like, as someone who really isn't religious and never really has been in their life, that I would gravitate towards it if it were really going full ham on the campy aspects of it. So like I think there's a lot that it has going for it, and there's some parts of it that were really enjoyable. Give me Macaulay Culkin as Roland all day, every day, just quipping his way through any part of life. But like, as far as a movie goes, I can see why people that watched it did enjoy it, and it did seem to get kind of like mixed to positive reviews as opposed to going the other way with it. I'm actually a little surprised that this is a Sundance movie. This doesn't feel like a typical Sundance movie in a lot of ways. Sundance seems to be a little more like fiercely independent in the subject matter and the way it's written. Like, but it does show that like Sundance has become a thing where independent movies can go and get funding. Like, this basically came out, got funding from United Artists, and MGM put it out in theaters, and it doubled its money. So it reminds me of a time when movies like this could do that, as opposed to struggling against the system like it happens now. So that's really positive. But yeah, I think it is a little bit of wasted opportunity with it, but I think overall there's a lot of really funny parts to it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I will watch it again. I love this movie. It's funny as hell. And full disclosure, a cousin of yours reached out to me when we started posting about this on the Instagram, and said, "We quote this all the time in our house. Which one of you hasn't seen this?" And I said, "Your cousin." And she said, "What?" Yeah,
and like I said, I think it's just for me, was a movie that came out at an age where I wasn't paying attention to these type of movies. Always knew it existed, but it wasn't high on my rental list. So.
I think it's just you were too busy watching pretentious bullshit. So
yes.
There it is.
Absolutely.
On that note, though, so moving into pretentious, no, I'm just kidding. We don't do that here. I love this movie deeply. I will quote many things. I'm so glad they have been brought back into my life. Jesus Christ will always be funny to me. Billboard Jesus, thanks for coming. Anyway, on that note, that's saved. We will next be doing
one that you haven't seen. For our 9th episode, we are going to be watching Mad Max Fury Road, George Miller's 2015 absolute batshit action extravaganza.
I truly am surprised I haven't seen this movie.
Yeah, so that will be next. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in for episode 8. If you want to know, be reminded of when our next movie's coming out, next episode, check out our Instagram, which is I Can't Believe You Haven't Seen on Instagram, at I Can't Believe You Haven't Seen. And if you want to follow me on Letterboxd, I'm at Maddie236 on Letterboxd. And yeah.
And we're on TikTok as well.
We're on TikTok. We tick the talks apparently these days.
Oh my God, you've aged yourself.
I'm so old. Why do I have TikTok on my phone?
Can't wait to see how that turns out. We'll see y'all next time. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.